pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'll open the call to order the Board of Selectmen meeting for Wednesday, April 17th. If you're here to speak, please come up and sit at the table and identify yourself. That's about it.
What?
We've never seen him do this before, so this is kind of.
I'm all set.
Are we like
No, I'm
skipping ahead and like
experienced.
letting, you know?
No, well, I think if we could go up to official action items, liquor license renewal for Bread and the Bone, that would probably be good
Mhm.
if everybody's wants to accommodate that.
I think that would be nice.
So I think you guys got to get back to work.
I'll make a motion to approve the renewal of the liquor license for Bread and the Bone.
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Keep it
That was
coming,
it.
boys.
So you're out of here.
Tito's, no vermouth, okay, for me.
Night.
We'll go back up. We'll table the minutes to April 3rd because we haven't really seen them.
No.
I guess we can go to the GSB restructuring plan. That's probably since Lindsay's here.
Absolutely.
Do all the copies of the-
Yes, we did.
Oh, I do have extras if people need it.
I don't know if the order was
That's fine.
good. I started with the change proposal.
That's great.
and then
That's
gave them
wonderful.
The Pemaquid Education Service Center interlocal agreement,
Okay.
and then the formation of the RSU,
Okay.
part of that reorg thing.
And you had the budget in there as well?
Yes.
Great.
I think I probably just need some confirmation or clarification. I think some of those were labeled as FY 25. So I don't know if you had just included like the final FY 25 budget as well as I think in the plan it called for the proposed budget.
Yes.
So
Yes. Okay. I'm Lindsay Johnston. Hi, I'm a Damariscotta resident. I'm also the superintendent of AOS 93. Does that meet the requirements, John?
That meets the
Great.
requirement.
Great. I'm here to just give you an overview and answer any questions that you might have about what we're proposing, because we are asking for a warrant article to be on the ballot for June for voters. So I'm here so that you are informed before you make a decision to place it on there. We are in the AOS looking at a lot of change right now. We have not been functioning at a high level of efficiency. I don't think many people disagree with me when I say that, and I've said it publicly quite a bit. We are a district with 7 towns, 8 school districts in it, and 9 boards to manage. It is impossible, really, to do all of that. So we started out this process well over a year ago looking for efficiencies. And we decided if we were going to do that, we'd try to figure out the best thing we could do for students. It became very clear when we presented options to the townspeople, the school boards, the select boards, all kinds of different stakeholders, that people did not want to change their schools. They wanted to leave their schools in the communities they're in. That's absolutely great. There's no better or worse with school structures. It's a preference in what works for individual kids. So we're happy with that, but we still have to solve the problems of the inefficiencies that we have. So we have proposed a couple of different changes, and they are confusing. I know that. There are a lot of terms and there are a lot of interlocking pieces that are getting confused when people talk about it. So I'm happy to answer any questions. But the first thing that we're talking about is making Great Salt Bay CSD, Consolidated School District, which is currently K-8, a pre-K to 12 district. So you have here in Damariscotta a secondary board, an education board that deals with just secondary. So does Bremen and Newcastle. So there are 4 boards that are governing K-12 education in these 3 towns. What we're looking to do is just make that one board. It's the same board members already, and we're not looking to change anything with secondary. We don't want to touch school choice. We're still going to tuition out to where they want to go, still going to talk about transportation for them. We are simply looking to combine those 4 boards into one board. So we'd have one budget to give the towns, one set of state reports, one set of meetings for it. That just makes sense operationally. So we are hoping that that is what passes with the voter approval. That does require voter approval from each town. So we're thinking June 11th for Damariscotta, Newcastle, and June 22nd for Bremen to vote for that. That change can't happen until 2025, July 1st, 2025, but we're getting it on the ballot now because we're moving forward, getting all the pieces in place. That gives us a year to make sure we have all the details worked out as well. There are not a lot of details because we don't operate a secondary school. We don't have to worry about combining collective bargaining agreements or structures of schools or anything like that. It's literally not going to impact staff or students in any way, shape, or form. It's an operational change. So that's what's actually on the ballot in front of you right now. If that happens, is actually the second page of your packet that you have, the GSB RSU. It's no different than the CSD that exists right now, but the state won't let you call it a CSD anymore. You have to use the term regional school unit. So that's why the name changes there. It's not any operational change for the school itself. We still would have a budget meeting like we do for Great Salt Bay right now where voters approve it. Everything operationally stays the same. It just makes 4 entities into one. Then the second piece that we are looking at to solve the AOS structure, the inefficiencies that we find, is to form an educational service center. So that's the ESC term that you see. This is a new option. This didn't exist when the AOS was formed 20 years ago when Governor Baldacci asked districts to combine. This was not an option. It is now. So an educational service center is an organization of members, just like the AOS is right now, that share services. The difference with what the AOS is and the ESC is the AOS, you're in for everything. You have to do it and you receive no subsidy, and you cannot be a fiscal agent for any of the pieces that you're managing. An ESC can be a fiscal agent, so we can receive the money. Obviously, we're audited and we have all our accounting practices. We follow all the legalities, but we can receive the money and send it out for the districts. We also receive subsidy from the state. We receive $94 per student, K-12 or pre-K-12. It's not just the ones who operate with school. They'll pay 55% of the director's salary. Generally, the director is a superintendent or a business manager or one of the higher paid people so that you have more of that incentive back. And they'll assist with getting software or other needs in order to start the ESC. For example, we're looking at having the business office there. Currently, the AOS, each district owns software to manage financial software. The ESC would want to purchase that. So the state would give us funds to help purchase it from ourselves, which is great. We're happy to have that. It doesn't work out to hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we're not looking to turn away any subsidy we can get. We do think that is a benefit. The biggest benefit we find to the ESC is one of the other 2 benefits is you can pick and choose which services you want. To be a member, you only have to have at least 2 services. Our intention right now is that all members do have all 4 of the services we're offering because it's not fiscally responsible for any of them to try and do it on their own. These are the areas where it makes sense for us to share and collaborate in order to save money. Adult ed, nutrition, information technology, and the business office. They are operational functions. They're not really the educational components that we find are different from school to school. So by separating these out into an ESC, we take the pieces where you can cost share, that you can receive subsidy for, and that are simply operational, and we streamline them into one area. That leaves the AOS operating a superintendent and a special ed director only. Now, that is okay. However, some of our districts are not finding that they're getting enough attention, enough local control, enough of the responsiveness from having the number of people we have in these positions right now trying to manage everything. And it varies at different times of the year, and it varies different years. Some years I spend a lot of time with one district, and next year maybe not so much, but another district takes up a lot of time. And the time that each district takes is not proportionate to their enrollment. With the AOS, you're also paying proportionate to your enrollment. So the 3 towns that make up Great Salt Bay pay 40% of the AOS costs. I am not sure you're getting 40% of the service every week or every month. South Bristol pays closer to 10%. They receive a lot more than 10% of our time. There are a lot of things we do that don't matter what the enrollment is. Policy is a great example. If I have to work on policies for Great Salt Bay, it takes the exact same amount of time to do that for South Bristol. but the amount you're paying is vastly different. So the ESC is being set up hopefully with a member pay to play and an equal voting structure. So everybody will pay more equally for the services that take equal time instead of just doing it by enrollment. And also with enrollment, it shifts every year, which is sometimes hard to keep track of. Obviously, we do it, but it can make it difficult. So the AOS would be left with the superintendent and the special ed director. Some of our schools, Great Salt Bay in particular, that board and the 3 secondary boards are at a point where they feel like they would like to withdraw and have their own superintendent and special ed director. My recommendation to them, based on having been in this district since 2016, is a part-time superintendent and a full-time special ed director, given the caseloads. I think a part-time superintendent is more than capable of meeting the needs pre-K to 12 of Damariscotta, Newcastle, and Bremen. I think that the remaining 4, if they stay together as 4, need a full-time superintendent and a full-time special ed director as well. I know it seems like we wouldn't have to do much for high school because we tuition them out, but we do. We're still involved in all of the special ed IEP meetings, as you know, the placements. If there's a student that isn't accepted at a certain school, then it is on the job of the superintendent to find them a placement, to work with the family to make sure they have access to their education. So there really is still quite a bit of work that we need to do with the secondaries, plus all the state reporting. So the third part of this that Great Salt Bay is looking to do is to pull back from the AOS and have their own superintendent, their own special ed director. They would still be a part of the ESC because those are the operational functions that you can cost share and actually find some savings in. We have through this structure for next year, done out what a budget would look like to make sure that it wouldn't cost anybody more money. So
This is, you're really talking about Great Salt Bay won't be part of AOS 93. Any
correct.
have their own, they will be a RSU.
They'd be an RSU
Okay.
with their own superintendent and their own special ed director, and they would be a member of the ESC for those operational functions. Yes, with everyone else. Yes. So as you know, the AOS budget has to be approved at town meeting, at the district meeting. So that always happens in December. So we already know next year's budget, 24-25. So that's where it says the requested, but it should say actual, like you said, Andy. So if those changes all happen, let's say they happen for July 1, okay, of this year, 2024, the new AOS would be operating superintendent and special ed director for the 4 remaining municipalities, Jefferson, Noblesboro, Bristol, and South Bristol. The ESC would be doing those operational functions, and under the GSB column, that's your superintendent and special ed director services. It all works out that Great Salt Bay District would save about $10,000. We call that small enough to say budget neutral. So we're calling that budget neutral. Plus, there's always some sort of little $1,000 expense that comes up. So this model would work with the approved budget for 25 already, based on the draft agreements that are in your packet, with a budget neutral impact, but would allow Great Salt Bay or in the 3 towns to have more focus on just them from a superintendent, focus on just their over 100 students in special ed as well, and still receive their operational functions through the ESC where we can cost share savings. The agreements that are in your packet are draft. I can't say that enough or loud enough. They are draft. They are templates from the lawyers in the state. They're subject right now to review and approval, so that we're already changing some of the different pieces of it. I can tell you in the one you have in your packet right now has gone through a review for Great Salt Bay. It had voting at large where you could all elect different members. That's gone. We did back to the voting from each town and weighted votes for the population size. So that's a change that already was addressed.
Okay, because I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah. That was again in a template. Some districts around the state are starting to do that, but our towns like to vote in our members, and I think that's reasonable. So that's the structure in there. The Pemaquid is what is called the Pemaquid ESC. It's only called Pemaquid, by the way, because we needed to keep names straight, and that's what one of the lawyers chose to call this particular document. It has a lot of things in there that are changed because it's the template. For instance, it says we would manage facilities. That's not something the ESC is looking to do. It says we would manage curriculum. That's not something the ESC would do. A superintendent would do that. It has on page 7, the budget allocation and assessment, but that is just a draft proposal to start discussion. That is not a negotiated agreement yet. None of this can happen until these agreements are approved by each of the individual school boards. So I can't do it. Central office can't do it. It has to be school board approved. The AOS, sorry, the RSU formation needs to be approved by voters as well. Becoming its own, withdrawing from the AOS does not, and the ESC needs to be approved by the boards. So there's different, trying to keep everything straight. I dream about this at night, I swear, the charts of it. We think what we'll end up with is a product, a system that shares operational costs where we can, but allows each school to have the attention, focus, and their needs met better than what we're seeing right now.
Question, what is this column, non-requests?
So yeah, the non-request means that central office put it in. A request is from the school. I'm not sure why that, it should have been one printed without those, just as a total column. That's how we tell the difference between who entered what.
Just so I can keep,
Yeah.
straight. So the column with the FY25 request, that's business as usual.
That is business as usual, and that is approved already at that December meeting. That is
Right.
FY25 is the July 24 through June 25 year.
Right. And then so under the model where the ESC is created and GSB becomes an RSU, is it that it's the column for new AOS, ESC and GSB?
The new AOS would have nothing to do with Damariscotta.
Okay.
That is Noblesboro, Jefferson, Bristol, and South Bristol.
Okay.
The GSB RSU, the GSB column is where your funds are, and you have a share in the ESC. Is there another format that I could put this in that would help make it clearer? I live in this format. I'm so used to it, but I understand most people
Well,
don't.
I figured it out when I looked at it.
I knew you were smart enough.
I just barely.
I've worked with you before. I know.
Yeah, I
you are.
know. Yeah, it was,
I know, it's,
Let me just,
Yeah.
let me just dive in. I was
sure.
thinking, I went through it and just tried to make some notes, and some of the first questions really just terminology. Sometimes you'd use this term executive director,
Mhm.
and so the ESC, EC.
ESC, you're correct.
ESC is going to have its own director,
It's going to have a director, but it will be
And-
one
but
of
it's
the
not gonna be a-
positions that's already in there.
but, okay, so it's not going to be as superintendent as
No.
we understand
Right.
superintendent.
It would be the business manager at this
Okay.
point. Yes, because
Okay.
that's the highest.
Yeah. Because part of it was trying to sift through and figure out if, are there any new positions being created?
And there are not.
Okay,
What we're looking at is having some ESCs around the state do have a separate director. We don't think we need to. When we've looked at the operations and the team we have at central office, we can manage it
so
with the
essentially
people
the
that are
business
there.
manager essentially manages those functions
Yes.
already.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
I did find the memos and really helpful once I realized that you started breaking out educational services and business functions.
Yeah,
And that was sort of like a light bulb went off, and it's like, okay,
good.
that,
Thank you.
that starts to make sense.
Okay,
in
I'll
terms
keep
of what you-
hammering that
Yeah,
point.
in terms of, yeah, because I'm not sure I got it until
Right,
I figured out that there's a distinction there.
yes,
And so, because when you just sort of follow the saga of you guys over the course of the last couple of years,
yes.
I feel bad for you guys, because it's painful.
Thank you.
To see it, but I think where you're ending up sort of makes sense administratively
Yes,
and educationally as well.
yes.
Because
We
it
hope
seems
so.
like the different towns, and I can't speak for them. I can't even speak for this one really, because I'm not on the board, but it sometimes seems like even educationally, they have different priorities as well.
They do. They do. And local control is really important in Maine, especially in Midcoast Maine. I think we'd all agree with that. And we have found that when we're trying to combine functions in the AOS, we're unable to. And part of the reason we were doing that was to purchase things on a larger scale or to streamline our PD, and we're not getting there. We don't even have a common calendar anymore.
no.
We don't.
And
Yeah, it's a
some have
nightmare.
remote school days
Yep.
for storms and.
We do not
some-
have common policies. We don't have a common calendar. We don't have common collective bargaining agreements. We don't have common programs to implement the curriculum that we have. We don't have any of that. You know, some of my superintendent colleagues, you know, in Portland, they get ready for 2 board meetings a month because they meet every 2 weeks. I get ready for 6 to 9, and that's not counting workshops and, special meetings. So
the budget for Tylenol is gonna go down for sure.
hopefully, yes, or ibuprofen, one or the other. I just think it will allow people to focus more on the educational requests and needs of our students and staff. I think it will make a big difference there. And there are no positions added. With the staff we have at central office right now, because we have a superintendent and an assistant superintendent, you can turn that into a full-time superintendent for them and a part-time superintendent for Great Salt Bay, and it works out.
And
And same with
and that
special
role
ed.
won't be as big as the role that you have
Correct.
today. So that's how the
Correct.
money side of it works. if you
Yes.
will.
Do you think
Yes.
going forward there'd be bigger savings once this thing settles in?
I hope so. I hope so. Yes. We're looking at ways we can do that. Peter, the business manager, is working on some additional cost budgeting out, but we know it's budget neutral. We're hoping to find more savings as we go too.
Any other questions? I know
Just-
Andy's got some.
I think the only one just, is there any possible concern? I mean, when we talk about GSB as currently as a CSD, and if the documents get and the ESC is created with the CSD joining as a member,
Mhm.
is the transition to an RSU somehow already considered? Is that gonna,
We would put a clause in the formation agreement that said, assuming it passes voter approval in June, we would have a clause in the ESC document that says year 1, it's the 4 individual members, and as of year 2, it's the RSU instead. Yes.
Just one, no, as I read through the ECS, there's this idea of member assessments,
Mhm.
but members don't have to use all the services if they don't
They do not.
choose to.
Right.
And so if you choose, let's say, I don't know, adult ed or something,
Yes.
that we're just going to handle it ourselves.
Right. You would pay for the services you use. The ESC allows that flexibility.
Okay,
Right now, it's not fiscally responsible for anybody to do those 4 on their
Okay.
own because, and we've looked at that structure.
okay.
In the future, maybe, if somebody got bigger, maybe. But those services make sense the way they're running right now.
And then there's also, it sounds like it allows for if other communities want to join the ECS
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Is there any, have you heard any rumors that could happen?
I know there's another town nearby that has an exploratory committee for their education structure that might be interested in paying out for their business office services as well.
And would that be
Um,
helpful to the
It
ECS
would
in terms
after
of
we get
funding?
established.
Yeah.
Right. And I think one of the things we'd have to assess is the workload of the staff that we have and the workload that an additional member or associate member is asking us to take on. If it required another staff member, we would need to make sure they were paying to cover that, paying enough to make it at least balanced, if not profitable to the member towns.
So-
And those changes cannot be made without the board approving them. They're not unilateral decisions by the director or other towns. It has to be by the board, and the board has a seat, a member from each school board that sits on it. And the way it's written right now, the superintendents as well, because the ESC works for the superintendent, but is responsible to the board for certain functions.
Does the ESC work for the AOS?
No, it would be separate. It would work the way the AOS works right now, that the ESC is beholden to each of those boards, but those staff members don't need to go to all the board meetings. They give the information to the superintendent. Ultimate responsibility always falls with the superintendent.
So the superintendent will handle those other 4 or 5 schools, whatever.
Yes,
And then the half part will
would handle here.
Great Salt Bay.
Yes, yes.
So the other members of the current AOS other than
Yes.
GSB, they don't have, if GSB wants to go ahead and form this RSU, they don't have a veto over that.
They do not. And so far, they have not been against it, that they've expressed to me either privately or publicly. In fact, they love the idea that one superintendent would have 4 of them instead of 8 to look
Okay.
at, that they feel like they would be gaining as well from it. And because it's budget neutral, they're not being asked to pay more to cover Great Salt Bay leaving. And they have been fine with that.
And those other towns they only have one school board for secondary and
Correct. They're already
set up,
K-12.
they're already set up that way.
Yes, yes. And we are looking to have that for the Great Salt Bay District as well.
Mhm.
Although pre-K-12 this year.
Yeah,
That's
We are
Awesome.
so excited for this.
I got a question on that, but all right.
Happy to answer it.
Any other questions on the ESC, RSU? I do have, you said that this was a working document for the
Yes.
RSU.
Yes.
In there, it stated about the representative not being a municipal official. Whoever gets elected.
Yeah.
Um,
Right. It's not appointed by the municipal official, right? Is that what it said?
no, it says if you're, it was describing the election, getting
Okay.
25 signatures, 25 to
sure.
50, and
Sure.
coming here for the clerk, but then you have to go to the RSU to get certified, and then the RSU would supply
Yes.
the ballot to the town.
Which is what we do now.
Right,
Yeah.
and then,
We
but then
print them and
it
bring
kind
them
of
over.
got strange where it said if there was a vacancy, if they're not a municipal officer, but it said that the municipal officers could appoint
In a vacancy,
a
yes.
vacancy.
And so if someone abdicates their seat during it, yes, there are statutes that determine who
Right.
gets to appoint that. And in the case of an RSU, it is the town officials.
Mhm.
In the case of a municipal district, so like Noblesboro, which just has them, the board does it, the school board. So it depends on your structure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was checking on that.
Yeah. And again, if you have a suggestion for a way to change this, as long as it doesn't violate statute, we are throwing all the changes into a shared Google Doc so that all board members everywhere, 29 of them, can see and start getting their discussions going about what they like or don't like in
And
it.
then I don't know if I skipped over it or not. Was there a place in there if you had to have a person recalled or anything?
That, I don't think it's in this document. I think that's in your town. It's in statute for town, the way
Yeah, but
town would
if the
recall.
person isn't a municipal official,
Yeah,
then you need
That's a good
something in
question.
your
We'll check on that.
RSU for a recall.
yeah. We'll check on that.
I'm not saying I
Not
hope
that you
that,
want to
I
recall
never, I
anyone.
never want that to happen, but if it ever does come to
But
that
if it
point,
does, right,
you want to make sure you have that.
I can check on that, make sure that's noted.
And you already covered the weighted vote, and that was a big thing on.
That was a huge thing, yes.
Going to the pre-K program, that was talked about for years when I was on the school board.
Yeah.
The only drawback to that was where in the school are you going to have that program?
So we have a little bit of a trend here in the mid-coast with slightly declining enrollment. And we've seen it in the first 3 grades, K1, 2. And what that's done is made our class sizes such that we can have at kindergarten and first grade 2 classes instead of 3.
Mhm.
And so that opens up 2 classrooms right there without having to do an addition or another modular.
And pre-K
And we
has
have
certain
that staff.
standards
They do.
too that those
They do.
classrooms need to meet too.
Yes, and we've had the state inspection people come down and our classrooms that we have available meet that.
Ooh, good.
And because we have staff on board, in pre-K has a different ratio of staff than K through 12 has. You have to have 1 adult per every 8 kids. We're looking to have 16 in a classroom, so a teacher and an ed tech. And we have 3 staff members in the building right now, and we only need to hire 1 additional ed tech. The state is also offering as a pre-K incentive right now, not forever in the future, but if you decide to do it, which is what we're doing, you can get your subsidy in the year you implement it instead of waiting for those student counts to go in and getting it back 2 years later. So that's why we're moving on it now. We have the space, we have staff, we have a plan that's been approved, and we have that subsidy coming in this year to offset it the year we're implementing instead of waiting for a return 2 years later. So,
I'm just happy we have you because you know what the heck you're doing.
thank you.
Will you be staying on as the part-time RSU?
Well, Great Salt Bay RSU would have to post a position and
Okay.
somebody would have to apply
Okay,
for that. And then they would hire their best candidate.
okay. So
That was a
halftime,
non-answer.
I know, it's okay. So halftime superintendent and then, and so you're posting for a full-time special ed director
Yes,
also.
yes. And that I think is important.
Not easy to find.
Mhm.
It's not, but currently we have 4 people in central office we have 2 at special ed and 2 for superintendent. And this model still has 4 people.
Okay.
One of them is part-time, but it does still have a superintendent for each and a special ed director for each. And
Okay.
because the assistants have been an assistant for a year, they're eligible to be the director or the superintendent as well.
Okay.
So we have the personnel available if people are interested in continuing in those roles. I'm pretty confident that Great Salt Bay will work out just fine with their.
Did you mention that there was 100 students in special ed at GSB,
K-12 for the 3 towns.
K-12?
Yes, and I think it's about 104 total, but
104 out of how many total enrollment?
out of, oh, you did ask that, didn't you? I have it on my computer.
600 or
Yeah, it's
something,
gotta be
isn't
right
it?
around 6.
Yes, I think it is about 600.
It just feels like a high percentage.
18 to 20% is the state average right now. So we're, you know,
Okay.
we're
It's the same thing we
about
have
there.
at Lincoln Academy. We
It
have
is.
100 out of 600 that have IEPs.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. And we are the, I believe, last if or second to last state in the country to have districts responsible for 4-year-olds with special ed needs as well. And so the state is pushing that. So our pre-K program coming into this school means that we'll have systems in place to support that need as well. The federal government is about to make Maine go that route. So
That's
we're
good.
trying to get our plans in place before the federal government tells us how to do it.
Are most of those kids ADH?
No, there's a wide variety of
Wide variety.
needs.
They're not.
Yeah.
And then COVID, the in-person instruction, I
Yep.
think that made a big
It
difference.
really did. We are seeing the effects. And I think even when I talk to Lincoln Academy staff, they feel like everybody's about 2 years behind where they were developmentally. And that's about what we're seeing in the schools as well.
Is pre-K 3 and 4?
We're going to do just 4 to start.
Just 4 to start.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So anybody else have any other questions?
I'm happy to come back anytime. I'm close. This is what I do.
So everybody good?
I think,
I'll keep reading
okay.
everything. Check
Great.
it all out
Yeah, please do.
for the 3rd time.
So let me just ask, because I just want to make sure it's clear to me. So you're looking for us to put something on the warrant
Yes.
to approve basically, I don't know if it's component 4, but
It's for Damariscotta, Newcastle and Bremen to create a pre-K to 12 RSU.
Right.
That's the piece that needs voter
Okay.
approval. And I'm looking for you to approve putting that on your ballot for voters to have the decision.
And all 3 towns have to approve.
Yes,
to
and
move forward.
Newcastle approved it last week and I'm going to Bremen in another week or so.
They approved putting it on.
Yeah, they
On-
approved putting it, thank you.
Yeah.
They approved putting it on the
On the
ballot.
ballot.
Yes,
But all 3 towns, when they go to vote, all 3 have to
Yes.
approve it too.
yes, they do. Yes, and we are going to have school board members and myself getting out through email lists, through, flyers, through our Great Salt Bay mailing list, through the Lincoln County News. We'll be available at town meetings if we can, whatever we can do to try and answer questions and make it as clear and simple as possible for people so they understand exactly what they're voting for.
Mhm.
Because we know it's confusing.
When, given the article that was provided references the reorganization plan,
Mhm.
when does that current living document become like available as the document that people will be approving?
I'm hoping that next week I'll have finalized draft of a finalized version of that. So in plenty of time. I just need to reconvene the committee, which consists of 9 board members, and then I invite you or somebody that you'd like to send from each town office and to go over it and vote to approve it.
Perfect.
And the state has it already for the Commissioner of Education. She's reviewing it and so far has had no qualms once we changed the weighted voting.
No more other questions? Okay,
I do appreciate your time.
no, thanks for coming.
you.
Thanks for giving us all the information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Makes a big help.
Mm.
Good.
So I assume the straw poll, we're gonna approve this to put it on so Lindsay doesn't have to stick around here any longer, so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you're all set, Lindsay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So citizen comments, correspondence,
I had a
Coastal
few.
Rivers.
Yeah, I got a few. I had one other one
Oh,
in the
really?
packet, which was Coastal River Conservation Trust is looking to apply for a small grant to, start, promoting trees and celebrating Arbor Day, and they want to put some trees on campus. I've had a few people in the community reach out in the last probably few months, and kind of, I think, largely spurred by one of the comp plan discussions. Was it comp plan or?
It was.
it did. We had a
people-
meeting up at Coastal Rivers and
And people were very concerned about planting more trees.
There was a resiliency meeting, I think. we
Plant
had
here or
too, that-
not
It was the
plant.
yeah, it was kind of
resiliency meeting.
resiliency, but it was related to the comp plan because we reserved that topic for them. to
Okay.
It was at the one that we
Yeah,
had at
yeah.
CRTC.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was just generally some conversation or people reaching out just to express the desire to see a concerted planned effort to increase the number of trees in town, generally speaking. And that's as a grassroots effort, kind of still forming. Coastal Rivers is interested in trying to do something on their campus, and maybe it'll help spur perhaps also more of a community effort.
Mhm.
So they're just looking for a letter of support. It's a grant they're applying for. They, as a nonprofit, can do that, and just, be the only thing it would obligate us to, as it's been drafted so far, was for me to be there when they do the launch or whatever for celebrating Arbor Day in 2025.
Mhm.
If we have the ability with our public works crew, we could, so we'd consider being able to help where we could when that planting happens, but
And I think it
Yeah.
said that they're gonna have kids from Great Salt Bay helping. We can get kids
Yeah.
from Lincoln.
right.
We should have planned, but it should be a good starter exactly for a grassroots movement to get more trees planted.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah, I'm good with moving forward with that.
We need to do,
No.
No.
we just say we're going to do it.
I do have a few other, mostly from DOT, things that have come in the last few days. Newcastle is pursuing a village partnership initiative with the state. It's a relatively newer program the state's launched. They're looking to design again River Road intersection with 1B, as well as Academy Hill, Mills Road and 1B. And so it's just kind of having a kickoff, looking to engage stakeholders. And so just letting you know that that process is happening. If you've heard probably some about it already.
Mhm.
But they'll have a public engagement workshop on Wednesday, May 1st, which happens to be our next board meeting. So I'll reach out to them and just say, if you can't attend, let us know. And there's other ways they'll seek input. Another DOT involvement, just letters sent out to the towns, letting folks know that are going to be having LCP work done, like capital pave work done, which for Damariscotta is Bristol Road. Northeast Paving will be doing that work. And they gave a resident contact on that if folks have
What does that
questions.
mean? That they're gonna do?
It's just the shim coat with the sand mix.
Oh,
It's what they did on Stool
Oh.
Street and Biskie Road
all right.
a couple years ago.
So it's not gonna accomplish much for
No.
maybe a year or 6 months and then start going back to the way it was before.
Last
When are
night,
we gonna like stop doing that?
Oh, they're
That's
gonna
the
do
program.
Route 1B though.
that's the program.
That's the program, like capital paving.
There does come a point where the road, some point does need to be reconstructed. Every road at some point needs to be reconstructed. It will fail at some point. My understanding with this LCP work on that section of road is that from West View to Town Line, they're considering a shim coat first.
And it was marked out.
For shim.
Yeah.
And so that's the extent of what that'll have for extra. I mean, they've got to do something to address the
Mhm.
craters that are there now. So, that'll be the best it gets. I mean, the problem is it'll still be there. The road still needs to be really addressed at some point, and ultimately it's going to fall on a partnership with us and the state. At this point, given the priority road that it is.
Mhm.
So this will buy some time, and I know there's a desire, certainly, as we've heard, to see those shoulders built out. That's an unbuilt road, as DOT considers it. So the amount of work that will need to go into planning just to determine and deal with right away and potential acquisition, is going to be timely, take some time and cost
Mhm.
some money. And so I think that's kind of the next step, is let them get through this and perhaps try and engage with them to understand what that outlay might be to do the planning work.
Would Bristol ever want to go in partners with us on that? Because it obviously impacts them as well.
I'm not sure.
Because I hear people from Bristol complain all the time
Yeah.
to me about when you're gonna fix your road.
Yeah.
Because they're
Not ours, it's DOT's.
no, I know.
Well, it's
but
not
they're-
just Bristol. I mean, South
South
Bristol
Bristol.
Yeah,
Yeah,
too.
but ours is worse.
but it affects all of
And
their
it's
citizens.
big square white and black things around town, the squares.
I think those have to do with
The survey.
what folks might have read in the paper last week, which was the next letter I have here. I did get a copy of this resident property owner report. This letter that went out to property owners along Business Route 1 in relation to that project that was mentioned in the paper, called the project manager today just to understand like what are they thinking, and so it's similar when Route 1B was built years ago. It's considered today an unbuilt road. And so they're looking at basically in the future needing to reconstruct that, probably deal with some right-of-way inconsistencies throughout that length of road, all the way from Bristol Road up to Route 1 by NC Hunt. The impression is from Bristol Road out through Newcastle back to Route 1 that way is considered built, and has the known right-of-ways through there and whatnot. So it's just the preliminary, that's all they've got set right now in the budget, is to do preliminary design work. So they'll be working on that through the summer and into the fall. Don't expect any work to be completed on that for probably another 6 to 8 years, I'm guessing. For that section, just by the time they build it into a work plan, get the funding. I mean, this is just the
Rights
first
of way,
step.
everything all defined.
To get your preliminary work done, get an idea of what the cost might be, fit it into a work plan for budgeting purposes. And then there'll be even more detailed, drill down in on the design work from there, but
Well, there
just
was
to
one
set
of
the
those squares on Vine Street. That's
Correct. I
not
think-
even on Route
think-
1.
I think for surveying purposes, they're used as, I'm guessing, as
Right.
benchmarks, certain areas
Reference.
for surveyors to set up the equipment,
Oh,
to
okay,
take what they need for, mapping out the road and boundaries and properties.
okay.
It's my guess.
That's what I came up with too.
I've never seen that design before. It's kind of neat.
I haven't either, but
Who put it there? Like DOT?
The
surveys.
survey, yeah. They had
Survey
crews out
DOT surveyor.
Friday and
Yeah,
Monday.
yeah.
Saw 'em Monday. I think some people saw them out Friday as well.
Yeah,
So that's all we have in that. I did, kind of ask, I said, well, what might this mean for the sidewalk or multi-lane, multi-use
Yeah.
bi-lane that we're
Yeah.
working with the state on. And so obviously they're aware of it, and, once they go through the preliminary design, I mean, they have to get through that stage first, I guess, to kind of see, but obviously we don't want to invest in that if within 10 years that's possibly going to be shipped. I'm not saying it will, but that was just a point I'd concerned we had raised, just to make sure that we're not going to invest in that to see it move. So, I did bring up briefly just, what all this again entails, and that there's a community interest to see bike lanes or sidewalks coming up through from downtown up through that area, the crossing over here for Castner Creek, as well as the intersection at School Street, which has been in the works and been discussed for a while. So all those kind of things need to get pulled in from other agencies within DOT and make sure that they're aware of those and build those in. And while I had them, I did ask about the roundabout, just as a quick update on where that stands on
Yeah.
Route 1. They're still generally on track to advertise in early 2025 for that project, and anticipate construction starting as early as April that year.
Oh,
I thought it was this year.
It'll be within the next 12 months
Okay.
that's pretty good.
if they stay on track.
Sure.
And then the only other,
So is DOT actually doing the work between McDonald's and the school?
I believe, yes, they're administering that project.
Like it's really that part's going to happen with a sidewalk going in.
Once they tell us the dollar amount we owe them and we can commit and provide those funds, yes.
And that's this year.
No,
No.
Oh,
we're still doing right-of-way work on that and legal work on that. And so that's on about the same timeline as the roundabout.
Mhm.
okay. And will it do from McDonald's to the school but it won't go all the way up to?
The
NC
shared
Hunt?
line with McDonald's and the gas station,
Just to the
and it goes
school.
to the school.
Okay. So you think that's 2025?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, that depends on our ability to prove the cash match to make that happen. The number is still kind of out
Mhm.
there. I mean, it's estimated, I think, at 1.6 for construction.
Just that little bit?
It's a good length.
From McDonald's to the school?
Yeah.
8 to 10 foot wide path. Yes, that's
Yes.
a pretty good length at a pretty big width. Fully constructed. Yeah,
Mhm.
I guess it's just not that
What's
far.
that share?
20%.
It's far. It's a lot further than you think.
Really?
I guess 3/4 of
Oh, it goes
3/4 of a mile.
past this-
So
past
it's
the
320.
Y.
Yeah, it goes up past the school. It goes from the intersection. So it's gonna
It
be
goes from the intersection past the Y to the school.
all the way up through.
Okay. Well, I'll just be happy to have it.
Great.
And what did you say about Church Street, Andy? We're waiting for, is that kind of still on hold?
More money?
We're still looking for more money.
Yeah, about $1 million.
And how can we help?
Trying to find grants. In the meantime, all we can do is continue to fund our capital reserve program.
That's why we're gonna plant lots of trees. Money grows on trees, right?
I mean, our only options is grants, private donations, or slowly funding our capital reserve plan program, through the town meetings. Or you can take a loan out.
We are applying for grants, though, that congressional grant.
Yeah, so that one, I'll just blur this into, unless,
Any other citizen
Yeah.
comments or correspondence? Hearing none, yeah, good, we're moving on.
so it's been a bit of a moving target in the last week. So we got notice, I think at the last meeting, I think they had just announced the senators had just announced that they are opening up their CDS
Mhm.
portals.
Mhm.
And so since then, been running under this hopeful assumption that we could apply this year as a transportation project instead of an economic development project like we did last year. And include the Coastal Rivers Trail project. So basically the same thing we submitted to USDOT in the fall that we didn't get. Had some conversations with congressional staff and as well as DOT, and just from last Friday to today at about 3, it went from maybe it will qualify, I'll find out, I'll get more information, and then it wasn't going to qualify. And then I got a call that maybe it would qualify, and then got again today that it's possible to qualify as a transportation. So
Oh
it's
my
been
word.
it's been a bit of a moving target.
Whose office you working through?
So it's mostly falls on the way the guidance works for this Senate office is they're suggesting that it's DOT that has to determine that the project is eligible under Title 23. And then they need to provide that in writing, and that the DOT would be willing to carry out the project if funding is enacted, and that the DOT will include the project in the STIP once the funding for the project is enacted. So initially the DOT wasn't going to be able to do that because they didn't think the project qualified under Title 23 because it's a local road. But that language has been slightly modified in the last couple of years, probably to meet some of these CDS projects. And so that's why it is likely eligible under that program. Nothing's guaranteed. So I'm working with Stephen Cole with the DOT to try and work through their project readiness. It's just a single sheet, just to make sure we check all those boxes. If so, then they'd be able to provide that clarification letter and check the other 2 boxes we need to submit. I'll do my best to get letters of support revised from the fall project. Senator King's portal closes Monday, the end of the day. Senator Collins are due, I think, either Wednesday or Thursday next week. So I'll do my best to get those in. Representative Pingree has not announced, to my knowledge, has not announced the CPF or same thing as open yet through their office. I think the House is just slightly behind the Senate on that.
Not surprised.
So that'll be a 3rd application at that point. But yeah, so I mean, if we'll swing for it, and like we did the federal grant in the fall, and it's a almost $4.5 million project. We've still got monies available to match if needed, and it's not. I think with the transportation, I don't think they're all a little bit different. I can't remember if this one actually requires it or not. Obviously, we can go in with it saying that we've got some, which should help.
We have some, we
do.
just need more.
Yep. Yeah, if you take out the Coastal Rivers piece and look at just Church Street and Hodgson Street and finish in that project, I think we were estimating close to $2 million. Right now we've got about 750 from the bond money left, and about 240, 230, 250 from private donations. So it's not including any additional sidewalk reserve money you might allocate.
And that's only 1 million. We need how much?
Another million.
Another million. Okay.
So based on estimates,
Mhm.
No, no, of
not,
course.
not bid,
of
not,
course.
so not bid responses, but
Sure.
yeah, so we're slowly trying, but it's always comes back to time and money and
Isn't
keep
it all?
trying.
Who like alerts you to grants that are out there? How do you find them? Just,
DOT, Lincoln County Regional Planning,
do?
MCOG, staffers from the congressional offices,
so they really are help. Some people are helpful in helping us to find money.
letting us know they're available. Yes.
Okay.
What
Actually,
about the,
actually completing applications and all the details that need to go with it. No, I mean, some of them no, some of them yes. If we pay them.
what about the Lincoln County Regional Planning Commission? They help you at all?
They certainly notify us and they have been helpful. There will come a point in certain amount of hours, that are available to us probably that, sometimes you might have to pay for some extra resource there, but yes, they have been helpful in applying for some of the smaller things we've done. Other than that, I don't know if there were any questions. We did get the floats launched last week downtown.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so
The crew is working on starting to sweep up some of the streets downtown. Still tracking down parts for our paint sprayer. Having a hard time getting the Sherwin-Williams is an authorized dealer for the machine we have, and so we're trying to go through them to get the part we need.
Do we have the forms? The
Stencils,
stencils
what we need to do yet?
for not,
Yeah.
yeah,
We've been
We're
painting, we've
fine.
been doing our own painting for years, so yes,
right. We
we
just
have,
don't do crosswalks.
we do.
We
Oh,
do.
we do.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got full
we've been doing
capability.
all the painting
Yeah,
for the
we
town
just-
the last few years.
we just couldn't get Camden to give us their stencil.
We
Really?
bought, we bought a stencil last year and put it out in the fall. Need a bigger one, but our machine needs to be repaired still, so our new foreman is working on getting that fixed.
Yeah, I noticed a new guy out there.
Yeah, and then once
What's his name?
John,
John. I think he went to Lincoln Academy. I remember him.
as we cycle in and work on street sweeping and kind of getting downtown ready, we got tables and benches and trash cans going out into this week and into next week. And we'll also continue to work on picking up some of the debris that's on some of the roads from the storms the last couple weeks. So it's all, I think the priority now that the roads are clear and safe for passing generally, and we'll be able to, I think, focus on the downtown stuff. And then again, as we can, we'll out of town and pick up all that debris. Other than that, any other questions on my report? Did have a typo on there for May 6th. That should be a planning board meeting, not a select board meeting.
I was thinking that was because it's a Monday, right?
And you had me all messed up when I read that.
I put it down. I'm thinking, oh, are we having a joint meeting? Okay. Checking.
So you all good, Andy?
Yep.
Okay, so we'll move to official action items. We've done the liquor license renewal. Now we'll move to the annual town meeting warrant. I want to approve the,
I did, before we started, I did change, you've got updated versions and you had underneath your packets when you came in today.
Mhm.
Not included in that, I did move, Article 2 to say one select board member instead of two. The only other change, I think that was there, is I updated the list for budget committee.
yeah, that's all that.
And I did update Article 37.
All the,
The
LD1.
LD1.
Okay.
Forgotten that last year and we had that special meeting, but
Mhm.
those are estimated numbers. That's assuming no increase in property value, no new value. I assume there'll be some.
We haven't done our assessment yet, right?
No,
don't
we
do-
won't
We
until-
won't do that until after the town meeting, and usually we try to do that the second meeting of July.
Yeah, they're just starting spring work now. It's whatever's there as of April 1st.
Okay.
So they're just starting spring work. So that's As to the article, and should we find ourselves going beyond that tax levy limit, which again, we don't know right now without having any new value picked up. $35,000 over that tax levy limit. So that would be an article to allow us to increase the limit if we are over. The only changes from what I had sent before.
And the RSU restructuring would be
Article
under that-
10.
Article 10. Okay, so we're voting on it.
Yes.
That's,
Yeah, that'll be on that first two pages there. Articles 2 through 10 are gonna be on paper ballots on Tuesday.
Okay.
I have our meeting for the rest of the articles set for that Saturday, the 15th at 10. The school is confirmed. We can use the school that day.
June 15th at 10.
The agenda and lineup will still figure, but I think you'll have warrant articles. Spirit of America, I believe, will be presented there, is my understanding. Board's desire. Want to do it at a
Usually-
regular meeting.
Usually try to do it there.
Yeah.
And then we'd like to, if it falls on track, be able to present a draft of the comp plan at that point, whether it's the first or second one. I was talking to Michael today, when it's possible. Could be one or the other, but it'll be a presentation for the comp plan and where
Yeah.
that sits
Yeah.
regardless, as well that day. So where they exactly fall in that morning, will
On the 15th and the 4th, right?
what's the fourth?
oh, the 4th, we're talking about having just a public.
Public
I'm
hearing.
just talking about the
Oh, okay.
town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the town meeting, the 4th isn't a town meeting. It's
No,
a
no, it's
public
just
hearing.
information.
Okay,
Yep, day one.
For the
Okay.
comp plan.
oh, regular, okay.
The first day of town meeting is that Tuesday, the 11th.
Okay,
And then the second day will resume on the 15th to take up the rest of the articles.
okay. So we're not gonna do them all at once. We're gonna do them, some on the 11th, some on the 15th?
Correct. On the 11th, that's Tuesday. That's election day at the polls. People will
Correct.
come here and vote by ballot for articles 2 through 10.
Right,
And then the town meeting will
Take over from 11 to
be-
50 or something.
Yeah.
go into
11
recess
to
or
50
whatever
go
until
on
Saturday.
Saturday,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And those will be on the floor. Do you want us to utilize the clickers again or just have people vote by hand? What would be your pleasure?
What's the easiest?
Yeah, we
By
have,
hand is easiest.
Do it by hand.
yeah, I don't think it's gonna be that controversial. Doesn't look like it.
Oh, either.
I mean, the only complicated, it's not complicated. We just got to bring in a screen and computer, and I know the graphics weren't fantastic last year. It's kind of the only downside. So all the questions were appearing on that screen last year and people could use the clickers. And there was the one article that was voted no, and the question had come up about, well, technically only someone who voted no needs to be able to bring up. And so we did look into that, and I said, well, yes, it is technically like that. So you can hopefully trust that whoever's bringing it back up, was honest in that they voted no. So there was that minor. But yeah, I think it's just gone back and forth. People wanted the anonymity to vote on the floor, so the clickers work. It's just a matter of wanting to know what your pleasure is there.
I say whatever the people want.
The
We got time.
clicker-
We don't need to know today.
The
but
clicker
just-
sign.
Clickers.
I'd wait till next meeting or something.
Okay.
'Cause I
Give
won't
it some
be-
thought, ask around,
Stop.
ask around. I mean, ask people you reach out to what they prefer. Get it on their radar.
Okay. Ask about,
If-
okay.
I think some
Clicking
people might
versus
not,
Board.
Some people,
Okay.
I know some people like having the clicker.
right,
And so that was the reason why we got it.
right,
And we used it years ago.
Yeah.
Through the, what was that, Heart and Soul and all that.
Mhm.
It was a lot easier, so.
it works for now. I mean, it's an outdated software. We can't get in touch with the people right now. In order for us to use it, we have to rely on
Right,
Newcastle to help
Newcastle.
us, and it does work still. But
Mhm.
at some point, if we want to continue using, it, we'll have to probably invest in something different. but
Right.
It does
right.
still work at the moment.
They don't have anything on that day, do they?
No,
know.
That would conflict?
probably not.
Newcastle?
Yeah,
No, probably
I
not.
know of.
probably not.
So, do we have a motion on the warrant?
Not yet.
Oh, yeah.
Are we are we making a motion?
Someone want to make a motion to approve the annual town meeting warrant?
Is
If
that the
not,
motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the
Alright,
annual town meeting
second.
warrant. Any questions, concerns, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Okay, and we also have a couple other things listed here. We did approve that. Yeah, we did approve the liquor when they were here. The appointment of election clerks is new for today. It wasn't on our agenda.
This is something Becky pulled up and saw in state statute, or she was given a reminder on Thursday that municipal officers must appoint election clerks by May 1st on the even numbered years.
This?
And so,
This year.
in all the years she's been doing is maybe the first time she's been brought to her attention so bluntly. So it just, if the board's willing to entertain that, she did provide a list of election clerks. I think we just did this back in the summer, I believe. But she'd be able to update that list with the state at least if that's something you're willing to approve.
Anyone want to make a motion to approve those?
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve the
Election clerk?
election for the ballot clerk roster.
I'm on it, so does that matter?
I don't know. We're gonna run into something because I can't appoint a family member, so you'll be all set.
Is there a second?
I don't-
Second.
Thank you, Tom.
Can I vote for it if I'm a clerk?
I don't think that's really truly a conflict here, but
Okay.
I don't think so either.
All those in favor?
It's out there, so
All right, I'm
it's out there, sorry.
I'm
I
abstaining.
just Posed it, it's fine. Sure.
Well, if
Yeah.
you're abstaining, he's abstaining.
No, he isn't. He just voted yes. We're all
They
set.
voted.
Yeah,
Do you have enough people, Andy?
as far as I know.
Looks like there's quite a few
yeah,
people.
no, I think she's fine.
Next up, quick claim deed without covenants for Sean and April Feltus.
Yeah, this is a transaction that is moving quickly to sell this property, and it was brought to our attention last week. Tara's been going back and forth all day yesterday and a good chunk of today with the attorney representing the buyer. And so what they found was 2 tax years, 2002 and 2016. 2002 was paid. Our system shows that it was paid prior to a foreclosure. 2016, our system shows that the foreclosure matured and we filed that with the county. And so we're able to release 2002 by way of the office. But 2016 needs to have the quick claim deed issued. We had them change it to the current owner's of record instead of the proposed owner. And other than that, everything's paid. I could give you a copy. The only thing I'd noted this afternoon after we printed this was that 2024 taxes aren't paid yet. I mean, that's typically taken care of as part of the closing. So I don't know if you wanted to just put that stipulation. I mean, they were going to provide us with a copy of the settlement agreement there for closing, so we knew that it was coming, but typically we don't release those unless our outstanding interests are paid. But again, because it's a purchase, sort of handled and the check would come directly to us.
I'll make a motion to approve the quick claim deed as without covenants for Sean and April Feltus with the
Subject to
subject to payment of
2024.
2024. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
You get a second?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Andrea, second.
Okay, so that's all our official action items.
Did you do the payroll warrant? No.
That is going to be after
Oh,
the
okay.
executive session, but we could do the payroll warrant. I
If
just
they do it first, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve payroll warrant number 50.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? I would like to make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 405.
You want to do the other warrant too?
251 too.
We are not going to do that right now.
We're not.
6E, consultation with legal counsel.
Excellent. Okay.
I'm making a motion, so someone want to second that?
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, so we're now going to an executive session.